Hey everyone, it's Pam. So, one of my subscribers named Darlin wanted to hear more about my experiences working in retail. So, thank you, Darlin. First of all, I think that's a great suggestion. And I thought I would start today just talking about why I did take a job in retail at the age of 48, because it's certainly not a career direction that most people that age would aspire to. And I thought I would talk a little bit about what that is like being an older worker working in retail. The short answer is I didn't have a choice. I needed a job, I needed one quickly. And I tell people to this day it was the best decision that I made for myself, hands down. So, my mom had recently passed away and the house was undergoing renovations, and per the instructions in her will, it was going to be sold. So I needed to qualify for an apartment, or if I was really hopeful, a mortgage. And I did have some savings. I had a 401k account as well. And I was working an SEO freelance writing job, but it really didn't pay all that much. And it certainly wasn't going to qualify me for an apartment. So I needed a W-2 job quickly. I had worked in an office before, but I had been laid off for a few years by that point. And most of my job experience has been in marketing, but I do have some customer service background as well. And what I really wanted to do was just work in an office and do like an administrative position. But again, I didn't have any recent experience to show for that. So I needed to start over, and I figured retail it might be considered bottom of the barrel, but you know what? I'm starting over. I'm going to develop like some kind of skills that I can transfer into an office administrative position. And that's exactly how it actually all turned out. That's what I do now. I am a receptionist slash customer service rep for a company, and I have a normal working schedule again. I get my weekends off, my holidays off, and so it all worked out. But in order to get that job, I needed to start somewhere and get some kind of experience. And so I did retail. They were desperate for workers. So I figured they're not going to turn me down. I interviewed with them, presented myself as well as I could, and I think I got offered the job the following day. And at first, I was working 20, 25 hours a week, but I did tell them I want to be full time. I want to take on as many hours as you can give me. And they did ramp me up eventually to very close to 40 hours. Once I had been working 30 hours a week, an average of 30 hours a week, then I qualified for their health benefits. And that was a huge weight off my back, because up until that point, I had been paying a lot of money per month for like individual health plan. So now I was on, and they take very little out of your paycheck, and they give you very, very good benefits. So that was a huge relief. And I did get $1 raise per hour not that long after I started working with them. I started off minimum wage, but then they made me a coordinator of the men's and kids department. So now I was getting paid a little bit more per hour. And then I got another raise when I had been there for a year. And so what was it like being like pushing 50 years old and working in retail? Well, it wasn't easy. In the beginning, it wasn't too bad, but the hours got ramped up, and you're on your feet constantly, and you're just. I think I did way more than 10,000 steps per day because I was walking all over that store. I would be out on the floor stocking my department, and then I would get called up to ring at the register when they needed help. And that happened several times a day. And then I was doing returns, and you're just walking like all over the place and going into the warehouse in the back. So it's a very like physically demanding job. You don't get a chance to sit down at all except on your breaks. And at some point, I started to get hot flashes, and that was like really uncomfortable. I mean, like you're wearing a mask, and it was just awful. I had to duck into the ladies' room all the time and try to cool down. And then I started taking like a natural supplement for hot flashes, and that helped me. Now today I'm on HRT, and that's like a huge relief. But that was definitely a challenge. But I always tell people best decision I ever made because it got me out of the house, it got me talking to people, and it took my mind off grieving the loss of my mother and worrying about the house and what was going to happen to me. I had a purpose again, and I had someplace to go every day. And so I wasn't worried about that stuff. I was working towards a goal. So definitely like the best decision that I've ever made for myself was going to work there. And I did enjoy like talking to people again. I was, talking to coworkers and talking to customers. And to be honest, like 95% of the customers I got were like okay. They were pleasant. Of course, there's always that 5%, but the jerks were dealt with by whoever the manager was on duty. We didn't have to deal with it too much. There were a lot of mornings where I woke up and I just felt like my body had been run over by an 18-wheeler. It was tough some mornings to get up and to keep going and keep doing it. Being in your late 40s, you don't recover quite as quickly from physical work as you do when you're in your 20s. So I definitely felt it, but I did what I had to do to survive, basically. And that was my whole attitude with this, was like, I'm doing this to survive. And I didn't view it as a permanent thing. I knew it was going to be temporary. Much to the chagrin of the store management, they really, really wanted me to stay on. And as a matter of fact, when I got my job offer with the job I'm with now, and I gave my notice, it was like 3 days before my last day at Marshall's, and the store manager, and by that time we had a man for a store manager, he pretty much begged me to stay on. And he was telling me we could try to match your salary that you're going to be getting. And I was like, wait, what? Like, wait a minute. Like, no, like I already signed a job agreement and I'm going to this company and that's my decision and that's it. And, I kind of told him too, tried to tell him in a nice way. I'm like, I really don't think you're going to be able, I don't think the corporate office is going to match the salary that I'm going to be getting at the new job. No offense. And because it was quite a significant jump compared to what they were paying. And I just knew the way retail was and the way the corporate office worked, that was not going to happen, even if I did want to stay on. One thing that was helpful that I mentioned that it was very physically demanding was I did learn the cash office at some point. They asked me, would you want to learn it? And what was nice about that, even though you had to be there at 6 a.m. in the morning before the store opened, because you need to reconcile everything from the day before the store opened, but you would get to sit there in a locked room for like 3-4 hours counting money, and nobody could bother you. They couldn't call you up to the register, couldn't do anything. And that was a nice little break, because then I would go out on the store floor when I was done and did the deposit and all that. But now I had like 4 hours left, and then I had like a lunch in between that at some point. So it worked out great. Like I would be out of there by 2 o'clock and the day would go by quickly. So that was kind of a nice little break to finally get to sit down for part of my shift. So it wasn't too bad. When I was on my feet all day, I felt like I could eat whatever the heck I wanted to, and I didn't gain any weight. And we did have they brought in snacks, and they brought in like Chick-fil-A and other lunch meals for us, which was really nice. But yeah, I mean, I tell people it was the best thing that I did for myself, and if I had to do it over again, I would. And I had worked in other retail jobs before. I worked a holiday season at Crate and Barrel way back in the day. That was awful. That's another story for another time. That was just a very bad. You would think working at Crate and Barrel would be a really nice store to work for. No, the managers were horrible and the customers were terrible. And the way they had their inventory set up to try to find something just didn't make any sense. It was just a mess. As a matter of fact, I didn't even give my notice or anything with them. I quit before the holiday season was over. My mom had broken her ankle, and I used that as an excuse, and I quit them. They were just awful. So that's my story of how I got employed in retail at the age of 48 and what it was like. Um, I hope to have more. I have some topic ideas that I want to get up, hopefully. But and there should be some more retail stories that I can tell you guys. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you made it to the end of the video. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe to me if you don't mind. I kind of would like to, I'm almost at the halfway mark of 1,000 subscribers. I would like to get to 1,000. That is my goal. And then I could get monetized. So thanks so much for watching. I will talk to you guys again soon. Take care.